Okay, welcome back to the channel. Something a little different this week. Had a few hours to fish that morning and decided to bring my heaviest and lightest fluke setup on the beach. We're starting off with the Ultralight combo. 3 32nd ounce or a 2.5 gram jig head, 3-inch gulp minnow, and a tiny little blade in the tail. PE 0.6 YGK, which is like 4 or 5 pound braid diameter, and a 7 pound sniper leader. The rod is the Major Craft Days 360 6.7 Ultralight. The reel is the Twin Power C2500, which is basically a 1000 size reel. This combo feels like a toy in my hands, but when I do the full review on this rod, you'll see it has landed some serious fish in the past few months. But whether surf fluke of any size will respond to these tiny offerings, we shall see. I'm starting off with a small gulp just to determine if there are any fish around, and later I'll switch to the tiny jerkbaits. Now, as you can see, there is a little bit of a surf kicked up that morning, and yes, a 2.5 gram jig head is pretty light, but regardless of what the wind and waves are doing, you're still only casting into less than 10 feet of water on the open beach. If you're using the right gear, you can maintain contact with your jig at all times. And the beauty of this ultralight setup is you're basically tight line jigging on a smaller scale. The jigging, hook set, and landing of fish is exactly the same as your conventional quarter ounce single jig setup. So yeah, even this size fish will put a bend on this Days 360 Ultralight. And sure, that's fun, but the deeper utility of downsizing your gear is that you're still practicing your fundamentals and mechanics, even when catching shorts. If you're not pivoting on a full swing hook set, you're not driving home the barb, even on this tiny little number 3 hook that comes with this Kitech jig head. Yeah, not bad at all. If I were keeping fish that day, I'd pull out the measuring tape on this one. And by the way, I have landed some pig smallies on this jig head from the kayak on 4 and 5 pound fluoro. Along with the gammy quarter ounce head, I have a ton of confidence in this little Kitech mono spin jig head. In any case, here I switched to the jerkbaits. This one is the Jackal Soul Shad 52 SRSP. It's sort of a shad plug slash jerkbait hybrid, and with number 12 Gammy SP medium heavy wire trebles and number 1 rings, it has a slow moderate float in salt water. Perfect for this application. And another healthy short, and yeah, I have way too many of these BFS jerkbaits lying around. I wasn't kidding when I said in previous videos that I became absolutely obsessed with the jerkbait bite starting a few years ago. Unfortunately, most of these freshwater plugs have never caught a fish until I started experimenting with throwing them for Fluke. Now on this next fish, just pay attention to how I'm working the Jackal Soul Shad. Those of you who watched my last video on how to catch fluke with jerkbaits will recognize that I am going through the exact same motions. The slackline jerks, the pulls, the tip up flutters once you get shallow, the slackline pauses, and even the line mending to keep my braid from sticking to the surface of the waves. Everything is the same, just scaled down to that ultralight realm. This is what makes ultralight fishing so engaging. You're basically practicing for your conventional gear. That's the appropriate size. And as engaging as this was, I think it's time to switch to my other setup and fulfill the whole point of this wholly unscientific experiment, comparing the ultralight results to that of my swimbait setup. And to start, I'll be throwing an oversized jerkbait, the Duo Realis Fang Shad 140 SR. This thing is almost 2 ounces stock compared to the 1/8 ounce Jackal Soul Shad, but has such high buoyancy that I had to add almost half an ounce of weight to the belly just to keep it to something of a fast, moderate float rate. I'm throwing it on my Megabass P5 Destroyer Mark 56. There's a full review of this remarkable rod on the channel, and a Tatula 200 with PE 1.5 YGK to a 16-pound Sunline Sniper leader. And there you see all the sticky weights on the bottom. I think I have 2 grenade weights on the hook hangers as well, and this thing still floats like a cork. But in any case, it has very decent action. It's probably not my first choice for an oversized jerkbait, but The thing to remember is when you size up a jerkbait, you lose a lot of action. Now, this Mark 56 is a very light rod for what it's capable of throwing, but going from the Days 360 Ultralight to this setup, it definitely feels like a club in my hands at the moment. But notice how easy it is for me to impart that classic jerkbait cadence to this 2-ounce plus fang shad. With both the weight and balance of the Mark 56 and the incredible tip recovery of this blank, making this whole exercise completely effortless. This is not the case with most swimbait rods on the market, and if you're interested in this rod, I'll have links in the description below. Gary at the Tackle Trap will take care of you. And there you go, first couple of casts with the larger bait and we have ourselves a keeper. Now I guess this isn't completely surprising, but as you might have noticed, we're in a different section of beach altogether. So would this fish have gone for that tiny 5-gram jerkbait I was throwing earlier? Who knows? This is all part of the unscientific nature of this experiment, and really, unless you can dial back time and make the same cast to the same fish at the exact same time, none of what we do in fishing is really scientific. You can notice patterns and make solid guesses as to what a fish will respond to, but ultimately this sport requires the willing participation of another living, breathing mind. Okay, next bait up is a DRT Tiny Clash. You guys might have seen a couple of videos I've done featuring this bait on the channel. It sort of acts like a jerkbait, but it's really its own category. The TK is a dead walking bait, and you'll notice the way I work it is very subtle rod tip inputs while picking up slack with the reel handle. If I were to pick only one big bait from the freshwater bass world to fluke with, this is the one. And the second fish landed on a 2-ounce class bait is another keeper over 21 inches. As much as I want to nitpick over my methodology, the evidence is certainly piling up on one side of the ledger, at least on that day. Oh. Yeah, you think he wanted that fang shad? In any case, I had a hard stop for lunch, and that's the last fish of the day. Next Dart MDF drop is hopefully within a couple of weeks, just in time for the hardbait fluke season to come into full swing. All blades are back in stock at cookieandfishing.com, and Kevin is hard at work pouring larger gammy jig head sizes at tawcandyjigs.com. Thanks for watching, and tight lines.